life feels like a constant blur, an endless scroll of to do lists, notifications, and expectations we didn't exactly sign up for. We rush from moment to moment, but rarely stop to ask, am I actually living this life? Or am I just getting through it? Welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Anya, and today's guest, Hussein Hallak, knows that feeling all too well. A Syrian-born Canadian who's navigated war, migration, reinvention, and more than a few personal curveballs. Hussein has spent 2 decades helping people make sense of chaos, whether in business, art, or daily life. His latest book, The Dark of Art of Life Mastery, isn't a self-help fairy tale. It's an honest, sometimes blunt invitation to strip away illusions, reclaim your agency, and stop waiting for permission to live. And at the heart of his work is a truth that's both simple and radical. When we cultivate mental clarity, live with intention, and embrace authenticity, even when it's uncomfortable, we don't just survive, we live courageously. In this conversation, we'll explore how to master mindfulness, not as a buzzword, but as a practical tool for real life. Messy, unpredictable, and deeply human. Welcome to the show, Hussein. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me. That's such a great introduction. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Mhm. So, Hussein, you talk a lot about mental clarity as a foundation for courageous living. In your view, what's the biggest misconception people have about clarity?
I think when people think about clarity, they consider uh, clarity of the world in the sense that if the world is let's say confusing, or there are things that are uh, not, let's say, clear for them, or not yet um they're aware of it, they think, oh, I lack clarity because they look outwards. The biggest misconception is that actually clarity needs to be inward. The inward clarity, being clear on what you want out of life, what your purpose is, the things that you value the most. This is the most important clarity that you need, because the world many times will be unclear, confusing, tumultuous, things that you don't control. What you do control is what you're clear on, and those can be the result of your choices rather than, just asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so, if clarity isn't about having all the answers, what's one daily practice someone can start today to create more of it in their life?
That's a great question. I would say, number one, to ask yourself, let's say if we talk about just today, ask yourself, what is the most important thing that matters to me today, that will make the biggest difference in my life? And if you haven't asked yourself that question enough, it will be hard the first few times. The first few times you might like, I have no idea. So it's a search at the very beginning. But what's going to end up happening is, if you get comfortable with asking those kind of questions, what matters most to me? What do I really want out of this engagement, or out of this job, or out of my task list for today? What ends up happening is things will pop up for you because you're asking yourself. So your brain right now is in search mode, your heart is in search mode, and you resonate with certain things. You kind of feel connected to certain things, and you start learning more about what matters most to you, because instead of waiting at the end of the day to find out, hey, I've done a lot of things, I've been busy today, but I don't feel like accomplished anything, or I don't feel, that I've done the things that matter most. So asking those kind of questions on a daily basis, that's a practice that is very powerful and can make a huge difference in your life right now. You don't have to wait for ages for that to work. You can ask yourself right now, about today, about the next hour, about a relationship, about a job that you're going after. This is just one question that works very well in any condition that you're in.
That's interesting because I think many of us chase clarity as if it's a finish line, when in reality it sounds like you see it as an ongoing practice. Almost like gardening, you don't plant once and call it done.
I love the gardening exercise because what do gardeners do? They continue to trim, right? They continue to trim and they continue to take care. They continue to water let's say, the plants. And at the very beginning, you don't really, if you look at, let's say, a rose, or if you're gardening and you're basically growing maybe some vegetables or stuff like that, at the very beginning, they don't bear fruits. They look puny, small, they barely have leaves, they barely have a shape. But to grow a garden, it takes time and it takes consistency. You have to continue to practice that until you get that garden that is full with everything you want and the way you want it. But it's that constant taking care and making sure that every time there's something out of place, every time that you don't want, you kind of trim it, you take care of it, you water it. I love the example. That's spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have said that intentional living often means making choices that go against comfort or convenience. How do we know when discomfort is a sign of growth and when it's just unnecessary suffering?
Sometimes, because what does comfort mean? Comfort means going to that usual place, the place that we're used to, the place that we're comfortable in, where the stuff that we've always done. And they might not serve us. Like, for example, if we think of it like food, you might be comfortable eating the things that you always eat and you don't want to change. You're used to your shot of sugar, coffee, maybe certain drinks. And but that may not be helpful for you. In addition to that, every period of time that you go through, your body changes. If we're continuing that example of what's useful for your body, the same thing happens to your mind, but your mind is far more accelerated than your body in the sense that today the world is different than yesterday. So your mind is in a different state. And you need to examine what are the things that will help you move forward today. And they may not be the things that you thought that would help you move forward yesterday. And that's not comfortable for people because when we prepare plans, we like to stick to the plan. The plan becomes kind of like our life-saving boat or that raft that takes us from one place to the other, and we hang on to it, and we're afraid to swim or we're afraid to choose something different. It's hard to examine every day whether or not the plans that we set out yesterday still work for us today. So, but it is what we need to do because the world today is very different. Our state is different. So, that constant exercise of examining and looking at the things we are doing and measuring them against the thing that we want to do. That's why the first question we need to ask, is this the most important thing? What is the most important thing that I can engage with today that will give me the biggest rewards compared to where I want to go? And then the second question is this, are the plans, are the things that I'm doing, that I'm used to doing, helping me get there? And if not, what would help me get there? And that is uncomfortable for people because that means that everything is up for question. I mean, the world already is tumultuous and changing and uncertain. And now we have to bring that uncertainty to the things that we do. So it's definitely uncomfortable, but it's where growth happens. Growth happens in that area where you're uncomfortable. You need to push yourself. You need to go out of your comfort zone in order to grow, in order to expand, in order to do new things and discover new things. So, unfortunately, yes, it is uncomfortable, but it is where joy exists, where life really start to unfold for you, and where you discover what you're meant to do and what kind of person you choose to become.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And do you think our modern culture's obsession with comfort has actually made us more fragile in facing life's challenges?
Oh, 100%. Right now, I'll give you an example. Like when I was growing up, and this is not about like, the kids of today are, not like it's just the way the world is. I was more comfortable than my parents were, and my kids are more comfortable than me, and they have access to far more things that will keep the mind busy. For example, when I was a kid, I had 1 hour of animation that I can look at, kids programming. Right now you have 24/7. You can watch anything that you're into. You can have an enormous amount of library at your fingertips at zero cost. But the cost here is your time, your attention, and the things that matter most to you. So what ends up happening is our comfort is, you know I can put out a Netflix show and be busy watching for the next 8 hours, as opposed to picking up on, let's say, if something I want to do, I'm interested in VC capital, or in building a startup, or in pursuing an idea, or learning how to draw. That requires 8 hours or 3 hours of effort. So between enjoyment, or keeping my mind busy without any effort and without any cost, and the thing that cost me time, energy, and effort, and I may not get the outcome that I want. Of course, the brain or the mind, we are built to save energy. As humans, we're not built to work. We're built to save energy, because when we were evolving, the world or the environment didn't have that much that much food for us. So we're built to save and conserve energy. So it takes an effort to go after the thing that you want. So yes, today there is that challenge, and that's why you need more mental toughness. You need to train yourself to do that, not because you need to be tough, just because you need to pursue the stuff that matter to you, not because you need to rise to a certain standard that, let's say, people that are older than you or older generations say that you need to. It's because you want that. So that's why you need to start with what are your goals for yourself, and then compare the amount of time you spend towards that goals, as opposed to the amount of time you spend away from those goals. And it's okay to pursue comfort. Sometimes you need to rest. In fact, rest is extremely important. I'm a big believer that hustle culture doesn't work. Burnout is not helpful. You need to rest in order to recharge and put your energy. And now that you have energy, you need to put it in the things that matter most to you. So you need to get that clarity. You need to continue to question your plan, and you need to direct your energy into the things that matter most to you. And only you have that choice. Only you can decide what matters most to you, what is clarity, and what are the plans you choose to pursue.
I find that distinction powerful because it's easy to mistake discomfort for danger, but maybe the real danger is never stepping out of a comfort zone at all.
That is such a great point. The What is it? I think Mark Zuckerberg said once that the biggest risk is not taking risk at all, because what ends up happening is when you don't take risk, you don't open yourself up to things that are new to you, things that you didn't know they existed. uh, you end up losing on a lot of opportunity that you never knew existed. The challenge is that our world is becoming more binary, at least in perception. People like you either take risk or you don't take risk. In fact, having trained hundreds of entrepreneurs on how to build startups, and startups by definition, you're entering into uncertain markets and not knowing what the customers want. So risk is part of the process. The the what you do is you manage risk. So instead of going out, let's say you have some savings, let's say 10,000 or $20,000, your savings. A big risk is to go spend that $20,000 building a product without checking with your customers. It's comfortable because you're not putting your ideas to test, and you're not putting them out there to get feedback. But and it's comfortable for you, but you raise the risk because now you put all your money into something that you don't know if it works or not. A good way to manage risk is, let's say, spending $500, let's say, to build, I don't know, a landing page or a small web page, and testing if people are willing to sign up or not for the idea or for a version of the idea that you want to do. So now you've ventured into something new. However, you didn't venture and risk everything. You took a small risk, and now the most important thing is the feedback you get. You can do that with your ideas. You can have conversations with people. You can test things. So, for example, let's take it to, let's say, dating or meeting somebody new. You don't want the first conversation to be, let's get married, because then you will scare the heck out of them and there's no context. And you're taking a big swing and a big risk. And you're probably going to get disappointed big time, or the biggest risk is for somebody to say yes, and you get married to someone that you haven't even tested anything. Instead of going out, being friends, existing in environments, testing, having spent time with someone in many different settings and finding out, is this do you feel comfortable in different settings? Do you have great conversations? Can you spend longer period of times together and not get bored of each other? Stuff like that. Do you like the same music, or do you like similar things? Can you go to certain concerts? So similar, different risks. What you're taking is, you're taking risks, but you're not taking the biggest risk, which is, committing to that person for, let's say, several years to be together. So in a similar fashion, it's not a matter of taking risk or not. We always take risk by waking up every day. It's a risk because we can die today. You can actually step out of your bed and slip and fall and die or get paralyzed. Who knows what's going to happen? So risk is part of life. You cannot isolate it from life. The question is, are you taking measured risk towards the goals that you want, towards the direction that you want for your life? And that's why clarity is the first thing that you start, and then a plan, and then understanding that risk and failure and making mistakes is just an essential part of life. And as long as you want to do anything in life, risk is part of it.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And in your book, you challenge the idea that authenticity is about just being yourself. You say it's more about becoming yourself. Can you unpack that?
Absolutely. A lot of times we have this idea that I want the world to accept me as I am, or I want to show up as I am, and we forget that all of the time we don't know who we really are. Like I'm yet to meet someone who knows fully who they really are. Why is that? Because who you really are shows up in in, let's say, relation to the setting and the people you interact with. For example, when you meet your let's say important other, you don't know how you're going to behave until you meet them. You don't know what it feels like to fall in love until you actually do that. When you meet the job of your dreams, you don't know how you're going to show up until that job of your dreams is in front of you, because then you're going to experience yourself kind of reacting to that. Let's say a difficult position presents itself. You're never going to know how you're going to react until you're put into that position. So we don't really know ourselves. So the idea of being yourself is an idea that is dependent on, knowing how you behaved in the past and maintaining that. So it's actually a maintenance and a comfortable thing hidden under the idea of authenticity. Authenticity, true authenticity that I recommend, is when you show up in a certain setting and you choose how to show up, and that choice is yours. For example, let's say you're faced a situation where you need to choose your values. I've been in a situation where I've been in a boardroom and there is a CEO that is responsible for paying me as a consultant, and I had the choice of disagreeing with them or not disagreeing with them. Now, I could have worried about, my pay, and I said, I'm not going to disagree with them because I'm worried because I want to get paid. Or I can stand for my principles and deliver on the thing that matters most, which is what I committed to, which is to give advice that are beneficial for the business, regardless of what's happening. So it's a choice that I made. And that is authenticity, is the choice according to a principle that I am clear about, rather than a different choice. If I if I looked back and I said, well, how did I behave in the past? This is not an authentic approach, because who I am in the past, I've never faced this situation. So that's not going to help me. So authenticity is who you're being in the moment through your choices that are based on principles that you're clear on, that maybe you have to make that choice really in split second, or sometimes you have to take a moment and say, give me a moment, I need to think through this, and then you make that choice. But that is true authenticity, is when you actually show up in life according to your own choices in the moment that are true to you, who you choose to be rather than who you were or who you are, because you're always in discovery mode if you're really honest with yourself.
100%. So, does that mean authenticity sometimes requires reinventing ourselves? Even it feels like we are betraying our past self?
Mm, very cool. I think the past, that's the idea. I mean, if you like your past self and you choose to continue that past self, that's your choice. There is no choice that is good or bad, aside from, let's say, if we remove harming others or choices that are against, let's say, the general principles of what brings for human happiness and well-being. But other than that, choices, you can choose to live out your past, or you can choose to be a new today. Nobody can. I can't come here and say, well, that's a wrong choice, this is a good choice. It's your choice. As long it is your choice, then great. But the question is for you, would you rather experience life as it is today, or you'd like to experience or not experience life at all, or see it just from the eyes of the past? Just because I graduated as an engineer, I don't have to work as an engineer. Just because I built, let's say, a certain company, I don't have to wake up today and say, I want to choose to continue that company because I spent, let's say, 10 years building it. That's what we call the sunken cost fallacy. True leaders and people who really live a better life look at life today as if it's completely new and look forward rather than looking backwards. It's okay to look backwards and learn from the past, and of course carry the choices if it is your choice in the moment, if it is your authentic choice, if it is what you want to continue for the future. So that choice needs to be an active choice in the moment. So I would say true, let's say true life, a life of joy, is a life that is future facing, that you create in the moment what you want to experience in the moment and what you want to see in the future. So rather than it's a continuation of, let's say, what you lived in the past. You can, but would you want to? And if it is your choice, great, all the power to you. If it's not your choice and you choose something different, that's also available for you. I personally believe that life is better if you make those choices. And I ended up doing a ton of things, from playing guitar to dubbing a Disney movie to building 20 businesses to mentoring hundreds of entrepreneurs, all because when I made those choices, I made them with a vision towards the future and bringing joy into the current moment rather than, you know what, I've done advertising all my life, so should I will continue doing advertising. No, I had an opportunity to do something else and I jumped in, and it gave me so many opportunities and so many great moments, and it gave me trouble as well. Like, it doesn't come, joy doesn't come without effort and without pain that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a tough pill to swallow, especially for people who pride themselves on being consistent. But I guess growth and consistency aren't always the same thing.
You can stay consistent about the things that matter. The outward manifestation of who you are doesn't need to be consistent. Like, we change, I mean, women change their haircut. Even I don't have hair, so I don't know what that means. But let's say, you change your haircut because you feel like it. You don't need consistency on the outward facing things. The consistency is what you stand for, what you choose to be in relation to the principles that you value most. Everybody values certain things. For example, some people value honesty, some people value loyalty, some people value friendship, love. These are things, these are the important things that fill you up from inside. That consistency matters there because that's related to your inner self, to the things that matter most to you. For example, family for me is very powerful and very important. And no matter what I will do, my choice will be consistent, that I will choose family first. I will choose love first, for example. I will choose friendship over anything else. This is where consistency matters. How I dress, how I show up, what kind of company, what kind of work I do, these things will change. Sometimes the change will be forced from outside. Sometimes the change will be given coming from inside. I prefer, for us to choose based on what's available on the outside, for us to act our choices and have power over our choices and not be attached to the idea of consistency that is, superficial. I would say consistency on the inside matters so much more than how we look on the outside or how we show up on the outside.
For sure. And courageous living isn't about being fearless. It's about moving forward even when the fear is still in the room. What Hussein has all shared today reminds us that mindfulness and clarity aren't abstract ideals. They're practical tools for navigating the real, unfiltered mess of life. Whether it's choosing to be intentional when it's easier to drift, or embracing authenticity even when it costs you comfort, the invitation is the same. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start where you are, with what you have, and trust the act of living itself will shape you. Thank you, Hussein, for bringing not just wisdom, but honesty to this conversation. And to our listeners, may you find the courage to live a little more clearly and a little more intentionally